time where they were at their toughest and when they persevered through that on the other side, and what did it take? And every single time, I can guarantee you that it took them having to push through discomfort and through that discomfort zone to be able to get to that other side.
Welcome back to another episode of The Burn. I am Ben Newman, and you know how we do this every single week. We're going to bring you a story of an athlete, an entertainer, a celebrity, an entrepreneur, somebody from the business world who has recognized that why and purpose is not enough. It's the underlying burn that ignites your why and purpose, that causes you to show up on the days you don't feel like it, and especially after you win. This is a very, very special guest today. JJ Mazzo is a friend of mine. He is a client of mine, but more importantly, a friend. He's a fellow Eagles supporter, and he's an individual who has dominated in life in everything that he's done. He's an individual that when he shares stories of perseverance, I get better. So even though oftentimes it's an iron sharpens iron, and I may share things to help him, oftentimes I'm walking away saying, that is what perseverance is. So I was so excited, and we're able to align the calendars to make this happen. JJ, he's not going to tell you this because he's a very, very humble dude. He is one of the top 100 mortgage professionals in the world today. So you talk about the ability to develop, to be a leader through the ups and downs. JJ is one of the top 100 mortgage professionals in the world. You talk about perseverance. When I just think back to, okay, how about 2008? How about early 2010s? How about 2015? How about 2018? How about 2020? Hey, how about the last 2 years? You talk about perseverance. I know many of you may not be a mortgage professional, but maybe there's something impacting you. Maybe it's the political world and you're wondering, do I wait on the sidelines? Maybe it's financial markets. Maybe it's ups and downs in your business or in your life. But JJ is all about perseverance. He's had a burn and a fire that has caused him to drive high success. But one of the things I love about JJ the most, and I'm excited for you to hear, is JJ doesn't like doing it alone. It's more so about the opportunity to build others to be their best so that they can do it together. I've never expressed it to you that way, brother, but that's one of the things that I love about you is how you've maintained such a powerful leadership and coaching perspective in your life as you've done so many things personally, but also at Cross Country Mortgage as one of the top professionals who shows us what perseverance is all about. JJ, welcome to The Burn. It's about damn time.
Wow, buddy. Thank you so much. I'm super honored to be here and super grateful for you. When we first met, it was really by happenstance. I don't know if you remember, I sit down, I'm wearing my Eagles sweatshirt, and my daughter goes to Alabama, and we just sit down to have lunch and sitting across the table. And it was just a very small world, obviously, as those conversations happen, but been a real blessing in my life, brother, just helping me through, some pretty crazy times as of recent, and just being a really great rock and influence. So I'm grateful for you and appreciate you having me on here. And it's always hard and weird hearing those things, but hearing them from you, it's super humbling. So thank you.
And like I said, I knew you weren't going to like hearing them, but I can't not say them. So let's start, and we'll share some of the things that you've persevered through. But what was it that really lit a fire inside of you to drive success, to have an ability to persevere? Because it really is true. Over the last couple of decades and the success you've had in the mortgage industry, I mean, there's people who would have quit 100 times, and you've not only kept going personally, but you've brought so many others along.
I don't think it's anything unique, honestly, from myself, from others. I think lots of people have probably been through a lot worse. And so some of these things, a lot of people can relate to, and some of them people can't. But my childhood ended when I was 6 years old. I had gone through some trauma. My mother at the time had pushed that trauma under the rug. I entered into therapy because I was acting out, because of that trauma. And really for and in the 70s and 80s is just, that's just kind of how it was. And I had older parents. My dad was born in the 30s, my mom in the 40s. And so it was really going through that and just feeling kind of pushed under the rug. I had to persevere through a lot of that stuff by myself, without having a lot of support there, from the people that were closest to me. And I realize that more now than then, because I thought for decades that it was very normal to have to go through some of that stuff. And the older I got, the more teenager-ish that I got, the more angry that I got. And so I did find myself getting into a lot of trouble early on, wanting to be seen and persevere through a lot of those things. And we didn't come from a wealthy family at all. My dad did a great job of just making sure that there was always a roof over our head or food on the table, but we moved a lot. I mean, 10, 15 times, lived in hotels, my dad was always chasing the job. And I think it was having to persevere going to multiple different schools, having to persevere. My siblings were 15 years older, having to persevere through my dad having a mistress through multiple times when we were younger. So there were just many things. What I didn't realize, really all I was trying to persevere was just to be seen and heard by my mom. And that was what did it. And then ultimately, we have this self-fulfilling prophecy. You want to be seen, and you could be seen positively or you could be seen negatively. And a lot of times we do negative things to get that attention. And so that's what I was doing, just naturally being young and dumb. And then at that point, at a young age, it sent me off to an all-boys boarding school in rural New Hampshire at 13 years old, after getting arrested for stealing my parents' car. And, that having to persevere through that, so coming from Southern California, being a skateboarding kid, to going to rural New Hampshire, trust me, I was like one of those, just, it couldn't be any different. So just learned a lot of things. And then ultimately I just realized I wanted stability, and I wanted to, the only way I could create that stability and count on to create that stability was for myself. And so there was just a lot of dysfunction. I mean, honestly, my perseverance today looks much different than what it did growing up. I mean, those are just kind of like highlights without putting everyone through another therapy session, including myself. But like those type of things people go through, and I harnessed them to light that fire and be that burn to push through, to prove people that they were wrong, that I was gonna amount for something, that I didn't need to rely on other people. Getting kicked out of the house when I was 18, while my brothers lived there until their 40s, right? You're just like, man, it's just like, okay, let me prove them wrong. So that really was the main driver getting into it. And then getting into the mortgage business when I was, 19 years old, carried that through there as well.
Mm. It's so interesting. You and I both faced so much, very different, but faced so much as little boys. And, I often every day I have to speak to that little boy to remind myself, like, man, you are strong. Like, that's how you made it through. I had this example of my mom who left me far too early. You know, you learned to persevere because you realized you went one direction, but that little boy was so strong, he could also choose to go another direction. What did you choose? Because I think a lot of people go through similar things, and many people, I don't know if they're as open as we are, but as coaches and leaders, I feel like you and I have a responsibility. We both believe this, to bring that out in people and say, hey, I can't help you unless you really help me understand what's going on. What was the messaging like for you, having gone through that trouble, getting arrested, being that troublesome kid? You just touched on it a little bit, but when you say you harnessed it, what would you tell yourself to remind yourself that you were strong and you could take a positive path?
I don't think I recognized any of those things as perseverance. For me, it was inadequacy and insecurity. And I think when we don't feel adequate and we're massively insecure, what do we do with that? We overcompensate for it, and our egos overcompensate for it as well. That will take you so far, and I've said, like, your ego's peak is where your life kind of plateaus. Like, you're only going to get so far with that ego all by itself. And it was important, I think. Unfortunately, I had to fall on my face after having some success on my own as well, to realize that there were still more changes that I was going to need to make, all the way up until my 40s, honestly. I mean, going back to it though, in my 40s, I can look back at those and draw harness and power from them. And I think that's the big thing that I want to help other people do is no, not everyone's going to be as open as we are about this stuff. I've just always been that type of person. I speak my mind. I am who I am, like me or don't like me. As an adult, as a child, I tried to conform. I tried to get everyone to like me. I felt inadequate, all of those type of things. And I think everyone can relate to that. I think we're all the same. I think we all have those times in our lives. And for me, I felt, as I was able to move past a lot of those things, I felt a certain amount of responsibility and a certain amount of joy in helping others through those things. And obviously starting doing it in the real estate and the mortgage space, which is a space that I know and is near and dear to my heart. But as I get older in all aspects, like I don't care where you're from and you don't need to tell me your whole damn story because I already know that you've been through some stuff. And if you haven't been through some stuff, you're going to go through some stuff, and help people take that and push through it instead of letting it be an anchor, like an anvil on their neck, just holding them down. I've been really, really blessed that I've only allowed that anvil to hold me down for short periods of time. But I still had a ball and chain. So I didn't realize that I was still running with the ball and chain around my ankle. It wasn't until I really was able to get rid of both of them that I realized, like, man, how many people are running around with this stuff? And how many people don't have the tools, and how many people just aren't willing to share. And so for me, and for folks like yourself, us sharing and talking about it is super healing. It's really great. It still hurts, when you talk about it and stuff, but that's good. It's better to feel than not feel, because for most of my life, I just didn't feel. And I think that's worse.
Have you thought about writing a book, but just don't have the time? We would love to help you make that dream come true this year. Introducing BNC Publishing. We offer an in-house 3-step process to help you bring your book to life. The whole process only takes 60 to 90 days. Compared to 18 months for traditional publishing methods, we work fast. To see if we are a good fit to work together on your project, email our team at info@bennewman.net. That's info@bennewman.net. Now, back to the show.
So I think for many people listening, who maybe aren't used to this type of vulnerability, transparency, just, hey, here's what it is. I'd encourage you to really think about pain that you've been through, because pain often provides perspective. So talk about the ups and the downs, the wild ass ride of you being in this mortgage industry, because I have to imagine, so rates go down, rates go up. I mean, compared to what you've shared about you, I mean, if you look at it from perspective, like, okay, I was arrested at 13, so rates went up. What are you going to do? I'm going to pick up the phone and dial. Has that pain provided perspective for you to persevere?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the one thing that was always given to me was work ethic. So my dad, growing up during the Great Depression, World War II, like he, military, he always worked really hard. He wasn't necessarily always the best example, but when it came to work ethic, he was. So I think for me that carried through into the mortgage business. So I typically I started working when I was less than 14, got into sales, worked 3 jobs most of the time, even when I started in the mortgage industry. But when I realized that how much I put into something, that it would equal the pay that I got back. So instead of just showing up for an hour and getting paid an hourly wage, meaning man, if I really put into this, like if I work really hard, if I make extra calls, if I stay extra amount of time, I can make extra money doing that. That really clicked for me. So the mortgage business was really perfect. So I was able at 19 to kind of quickly accelerate from an assistant to an assistant manager to a sales manager, and then running operations in my 20s, and then just going to being just a loan officer and a loan originator, and then becoming one of the top subprime loan originators in the nation at the time as internet leads were coming out. So I was in a boiler room calling and loving it, man. I would use different accents and different time zones and different areas that I was calling. I mean, I was having a really good time up until the crash happened, so I thought I was out of the woods. I was making great money. But I was spending the money as fast as I can make it, just by the example my dad had given to me. And I think for me, I thought I could always work out of it. Couldn't. And up to that point, I hadn't dealt with all of my baggage before either. So now I'm using this stuff to make money, and it's awesome, and we're crushing it. And oh my gosh, I've reached this pinnacle, and I can just do it at will. until you can't. And the key word was subprime loan officer. So that was really my bread and butter, what I did, because my goal was really to help people with less than average credit find a home, because that was my life. That was my parents. Like at 16, I was bringing my girlfriends back to a hotel room where 5 of us lived. It wasn't like, hey, this is really cool. Thanksgiving turkey in a microwave oven wasn't really cool. So I was still very angry from that. But when I realized that I could be part of the solution instead of part of the problem and help people, and shortly thereafter help my parents get their first condo and myself, I was like, man, this is awesome. Until it wasn't, obviously, for obvious reasons, because of what was going on in the industry. So once that all came crashing down, that's really where I had to take a hard look at everything, because I just had a brand new baby girl. My daughter was born in January of 2009, my youngest daughter. So I had a 3-year-old, my daughter just being born, my youngest, London, and then filing, and I think we finished bankruptcy in 2009 as well, after losing our house. So literally everything was gone, all the way down to the last car in the driveway that we were allowed to keep. But what we didn't know was you're not allowed to keep a leased car. So they took that car. So I was left with a bicycle to be able to go to and from work during that time. So as you can see, it's really pretty vivid for me to go through that. Would I change any of it? No, I don't know that I should have. Would I do it again? No, but I wouldn't do high school again, or junior high school, or date some of the girls that I ever dated again. So one time is good enough. One time is good enough. But yeah, man, that was kind of where my ego peaked, because that's what was taking me so far.
And all of that pain challenge gave you perspective of the places you didn't want to go back to, which you just referenced it in many, many settings, which has gone on for you to have this tremendous success with Cross Country Mortgage. And as I mentioned when I introduced our conversation, you know, this concept of stronger together, bringing people with you, you naturally, once you had this amazing success, you know, as an individual producer, right, as a loan officer, you know, you made a decision. I want to coach and lead others. Why has that been so important to you?
Well, because that's what saved me. Ultimately, I needed to rebuild everything from scratch. So I was one of those people that had to buy marketing leads, and I was doing mostly refinances in a space that didn't exist anymore. So it wasn't like today, because rates were too high and people didn't want to borrow it. Literally, the products that I sold no longer existed. So I had to figure it out. So I had a really great friend that introduced me to some folks in the coaching space, and I strummed up as much money as I could to finally get into one of their programs. But prior to that, she gave me some CDs to listen to. And so I listened to the CDs and applied it. And it gave me some great direction that put me on the path to rebuild my business, which was a purchase business, referral-based business. And it changed my life. So it really did just put me in a position where, you know, it really 10x'd my business from where I was. And I enjoyed doing it. I remember being a kid, I wanted to be a teacher, but I was way too economically motivated to be a teacher, unfortunately, because of how teachers get paid. And so this was really a great opportunity for me. Getting coached and being in the coaching program allowed me to then quickly become a coach. I was very laser focused on wanting to do that. And once I started helping others and doing that, man, that's where my business then 10x. What I saw is I needed to be directed, because I was drifting so much, and to help other people that are drifting get directed, and to see how many problems that solves. Now, it didn't solve all the problems in my life, but I can tell you, problems when you're broke suck a lot more than problems when you're wealthy. And that's just a fact.
This is factual. This is factual.
Right? So I was like, you know, still working through some stuff, but it felt right, and I loved doing it. And when I started doing it for not just, you know, I didn't have loan officers or people that were salespeople underneath me. I started doing it for my referral partners, my realtors that I was working with. And when you teach people how to fish, and they go out and fish, and they catch 5 tuna, and they come back and tell you about it, what's the first thing they say? Hey, here's a tuna. You know, they give you fish. And so when I started realizing that business model, for me, it was just like, this is awesome. I get to help other people through this, and it helps each other's businesses.
So powerful. Let me let me dive forward to take the success. So now we've gone through the success and ability to persevere as an individual, the success as an individual producer, the success as a coach and a leader. And we didn't know that when we were sitting there at that round table at the event in Denver last year, the Impact event, And yes, I saw the Eagle sweatshirt. I'll never forget it. And then, of course, we start talking about Bama. You start talking about things that I love. But then also you forgot, we got the bald head and the goatees. This is like the
Yeah.
brothers that
Yeah.
we were destined to meet.
Totally.
And, Gavin Ekstrom was really the catalyst because of the event that he made a decision to throw. Well, fast forward,
Yeah.
September 19th and 20th in Austin, Texas. Little did we know that you and I would become this close, have an opportunity to create impact together. It's been a blessing to be able to help sharpen some of the iron and to help you through some of the things that you've been building and growing through. It's been awesome. But I could not be any more excited to have the opportunity to now share the stage with you September 19th and 20th in Austin, Texas for this impact event, which I think when you really think about this conversation, it's like a culmination of that childhood, that kid who people thought you'll never become something. And then you become so successful and then you pour into coaching and leadership. And now here's this organization where you've partnered with some of your dear friends, some of the top coaches and leaders in your space to not only throw an event, but to make sure that you're delivering tools and resources for people to have resilience during this period of time where they need to make a choice to persevere. So I can't wait for Austin, Texas. Tell us more about what the organization is doing and tell us why you're choosing to do this event during a period of time when it's really challenging for so many people. Why are you leaning in and pouring into others even more?
It's kind of crazy. It's like, I guess it's just always been my thing. Well, is this a great time to start a new business, to be in the mortgage space, to do all this stuff at once? And probably not. And that's why right there is we left our collectively had left a program that was amazing and great to us, but we saw a lot of opportunity for evolution in that space, for a different type of community in that space. And we weren't going to be able to do it in that space. So we just decided to band together and do it on our own, where we were kind of limited on the things that we could talk about. We're going to be raw. We're going to be naked. We're going to share everything that we weren't allowed to share before within the confines of the box and the program that we were in, all of which were great things, all of which made us very successful. But there is so much more that we've been able to learn through the past, 10, 15, some of us 20 years of being in that structure that have changed because it is 2024. And so we wanted to be able to share that not just with people in the real estate and the mortgage space, but people that are salespeople, commission people, and teach them about tracking, teach them about lead generation, referral-based businesses, how to scale those businesses, how to scale and make more money in less time, how to be able to actually know how to count the money and how to run a profitable business itself. And a lot of those things that we've learned that are just they're not normal in a sales environment for people in any industry, including our own. And it was really, really expensive. Like at the time, it was so expensive for me to get in that program. And I'm just grateful God was looking over me to make sure I did, that we wanted to have something that was more affordable, that was really intimate, that's going to be as elite, but be able to share it with as many people as we can. And it's going to be hard and it's going to be challenging for all of us. It doesn't mean like, hey, we're going to go in and we're going to just be the best, but we are going to give it everything we've got. And I know this group of people that we have, that giving everything we got, that the people that are going to be there are going to get it.
Well, one of the things I know that you have done is you're certainly providing an amazing experience. So I want to talk about the experience, have you share a little bit about, the opportunity for me to come and be part of this event, as well as Jesse Itzler. So, with Itzler, we're going to get entertainment. I remember during COVID, he and I both shared the stage for a virtual event. And here I am, I'm in my office setting like this, and I'm delivering this message. He is literally in the back of an RV. I mean, he's like laying down. He's got his little hat on. He could have cared less. He's like, my family's in the RV. I'm here. And it was just this most amazing, just real talk. And so I know for myself as a coach and a leader, I can't wait to pour into that audience. I know Jesse Itzler is going to bring a fire and energy that's second to none in the world today. But beyond just entertainment, from like a Jesse Itzler. Gosh, he delivers practical steps. For me, I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm a coach. I'm going to deliver practical steps for you to change your disciplines in your life. But that's what this event is really about. This is not entertainment. This is coaching and taking ownership of your life and your decisions. So tell us a little bit beyond myself and Itzler. What are people going to experience that they're going to be able to take away? This isn't just a couple day event. These are takeaways that are going to change their life. Why was that so important to you and the team?
The goal is for people to be able to achieve freedom, whatever that freedom means for you, right? Some people, it means financial freedom, some spiritual freedom, whatever the freedom means for them, through community and consistency and wealth. And so you've really got to have tactics. And this is a tactical event. That's why we're bringing you in, because you are tactical. Jesse's tactical. All of our the coaches and the founders, all tactical. We want people to be able to come in and just get as many tactics as they can, but be able to walk away with 3, 4, 5 tactics that they can go back to their business, apply this in their business, and be able to see results from that move the needle. And we want to be able to move the needle as much as possible in the least amount of time possible. I think people are missing that. It's like there's so much grind. Let's work really hard. And I'm all for that. I've done that most of my life. But as I've gotten older, I've realized, man, there are a lot of tactics you can do that in less time. And you can really make more money in less time by utilizing some of the tactics we're going to share. So I think just real insightful strategies, really making sure we're diving deep into the things that most people stay away from. But also, like I said, you got 2-day events. So we've got Thursday, we're going to have you headlining. And then Friday, we're going to have Jesse headlining. So we're going to have a really great breaks in the day. And then people are going to be, leaving there full. And from there, if they want to take it a step further, we're super excited to have them and interview them to make sure that we're a fit for each other to go to that next step of coaching.
Well, before I ask you the final question, which is how do these individuals get off? So people who are they're having fear, doubts, uncertainties from financial markets, politics, personal endeavors, where they're sitting on that sideline questioning, do I want to get into the game? I want to say something about this event. So I'm not throwing this event. You guys are bringing me in for this event, and I feel blessed for every opportunity that I get. But I want to say something very direct, and I don't really do this very often. I can't tell you how many times people send me a message. Hey, when are you coming to Texas to speak? Hey, will you ever be in Austin to speak? Hey, will you ever be in Dallas to speak? I'm telling you right now, if you are in Dallas, if you're in San Antonio, if you're in Austin, if you're in Houston, drive your car. Here is the time, because I am not one of those people. If you've been to events that I'm a part of, I do not roll my suitcase in and out. I cannot wait to learn with you at this impact event. So yes, it's a blessing. They brought me into keynote, but I can't wait to hear every speaker. I cannot wait to hear Jesse Itzler. And also, if you really are down for it and you're not all about that talk, but you're about that action, a lot of you say, hey, I'd love to come to an event. And man, if I could do that unrequired workout with you. Well, guess what? On Friday morning, because I told these guys I'm not rolling my suitcase in and out, I'm fired up for this event, I am going to have the unrequired workout for those of you that want to come and hang and challenge yourself mentally and physically to really find those walls that we can push through together. So if you have ever messaged me and you're in the state of Texas saying, when are you coming to Texas? This is not my event. They're bringing me to Texas. I am so grateful to this Impact family that they've made the choice to bring me in. So if you're in Texas and you've wanted to spend time with me, you don't just get to hear me speak, we get to hang together. So I'm going to make sure in these call notes, not only are we going to share ways for you to stay connected with JJ, who, little foreshadow, JJ may have some really exciting things that you're going to want to stay connected with. I mean, it might be books, it might be coaching opportunities. Who knows? Maybe just things where you're going to want to stay connected with JJ, because he's all about perseverance and helping you grow. But we will drop a link to make it as easy as possible for us to come hang in Austin. So sorry, I had to do that, because when people hit me up, I'm like, well, then choose to take action and come see me. Don't just tell me that you want to come see me one day and then you choose to stay in the house. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Final question, JJ. What do you say to these individuals, whether it's somebody on your team that you're seeing, they're mentally struggling, they're battling, like, JJ, this is so hard. or individuals that you meet in a coaching perspective, or an individual who comes to you for advice, because I know the level of success that you've had. It's such an extraordinarily high level of success. People want to pick your brain. People want to ask you, what would you say to that individual who's listening, who's been fearful, rather than choosing to really have faith and to lean in, which I believe is when God rewards us the most? You know, and we're both faithful men. You know, when you choose to be resilient in the face of fear by attacking with extreme faith, I think that's when God rewards us. So what would you say to those individuals that are just sitting on the sideline questioning if they have what it takes?
I would tell them that I get it. I totally understand it because I've been there so many times, and it wasn't, I would ask them to look back at the time where they were at their toughest and when they persevered through that on the other side, and what did it take? And every single time, I can guarantee you that it took them having to push through discomfort and through that discomfort zone to be able to get to that other side. I would also tell them, think about that time where you were trying to achieve a goal and working really, really hard and gave up just right before, and you didn't realize how close you really were when you did that. And indecision is your decision. It's just made by somebody else. And I just got sick and tired of other people making my decisions and being drifted. And if you really, really want freedom, the freedom's in the discipline. So you've got to have the discipline to make a choice. You've got to have the discipline to proceed forward, especially if your gut tells you that your gut knows what to do. And we can ignore the gut all we want, but sooner or later, when you listen to that gut and you follow it and you see it all the way through, that's where you get the results. You can have reasons or results. You can't have both. So if you're tired of the reasons and you're looking for the results, then you have to take some action to get it.
I love it. JJ, thank you for showing up the way that you do in this world. We need more leaders like you who aren't weak. It's leaders who are strong through the toughest of times, because that's where we build our greatest strength. And your life of perseverance, your story of perseverance is an example of that. And I appreciate you, and sharpening iron with you is a blessing for me in my life. Thank you for coming on The Burn.
Me too, brother. Thank you so much. I'm grateful for you, my man.
Every week, sometimes I ask and sometimes I don't share this episode, but I want to be really specific. Share this episode with somebody that needs to persevere. And then share this episode with somebody who's in the great state of Texas, or maybe their state touches the state of Texas, because I cannot wait to spend time with all of you September 19th and 20th in Austin, Texas. We're going to make this as easy as possible for you to continue to follow JJ, to learn about this event, so we can help you take action to get off that sideline and to get into the game. Because when you choose to do that, you then give yourself the opportunity to connect to your burn every day, to allow it to ignite your why and purpose, so that you can show up on the days you don't feel like it, and especially after you win. Thank you for your continued love and support of The Burn. We appreciate every single listener, every single week. Until next week, this has been The Burn.